Let me come to you, Robert, immediately. Your reaction to the referendum that allows, of course, President Major General Paul Kagame essentially to be in power, really, for a generation.
Yes. First of all, this is not the Rwanda I fought for. You did mention of the liberation of 1994 and what followed after that. I think the Rwandans deserve a better Rwanda. We did not fight for a president who is hanging on to power after owning everything in the country. And the divisive nature of the Rwandan society and the operation. And, you know, when we talk about the referendum of which has a result of 98%, by the way, the date that they set for the change of constitution, the referendum date, is the same date that President Habyarimana used. And it's amazing to see that history is repeating itself.
Really?
Yes.
But what about somebody who might tell you, Robert, yes, you did fight to liberate your country so that your people could have unfettered access to Rwanda again, but that when you look at President Kagame, you look at what has been written about him, recorded about him, you look at the recent referendum, no matter what you think, we're talking here 98, perhaps 0.4% of the registered voters coming out and actually voting yes. We did not see any evidence on the ground that suggested they were actually being forced to do so.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Rwanda, these numbers we see in Rwanda are actually determined by Mr. Kagame and the inner circle of RPF. And why do I say this? I have worked for this organization or system for 20 years. And I remember far back in 2003, we were always given the percentage per district before the actual voting. And
who was giving it
from the
to
RPF,
you?
From the RPF Secretariat. So we would know that this district is going to be having a such percentage in the voting, and the real voting we see in Rwanda is just a show to the Western world that there's democracy, you know? And actually, if an area is Hutu predominant, then it has to be 100%. If it's Tutsi predominant, then that's when they can have 98 or 99. All that is done, you know, to sell the image of Mr. Kagame. And there's a lot of proof to that. Be it the elections that we had in 2010, the same thing happened. And look at what happened during the referendum. I mean, they announced the changes, the amendments to the constitution, and the elections go on after just 4 days. We are talking about a population of 12 million. How would you have actually explained the amendments? But it's because it's not necessary. The amendments are there, and the elections are staged to convince the donor countries that we are in democracy in Rwanda.
So what you are saying here is that under no circumstances is the Rwandan a stakeholder, a primary stakeholder in this electoral process?
Yes. Now, Kagame is a corrupt leader who there's massive corruption at the top in the country. And all these institutions, the government branches, the women we talk about in Rwanda, they are appointed, they are not elected. Yeah, so they have no say, they have to serve their master.
But if you talk about corruption, Kagame, you will be told by some of these international watchdogs, like Transparency International, for example, he fares very well.
Yes.
The World Bank, he fares so well. His country seems to be clean when it comes to corruption.
Interesting, because you know, Makonene, Transparency International Rwanda chapter, was murdered because he revealed the top corruption. And then after that, Transparency Rwanda, International in Rwanda, was taken over by the RPF and Kagame himself. So the figures they give, they feed the World Bank or IMF, they are totally corrupted. And look at the World Bank. Look at the recent World Bank report. Rwanda is far lower than Uganda or Tanzania when it comes to private sector investment. They are actually even when you go to public investment, they are even lower than Burundi. But what does that mean? It is because Rwanda is depending entirely on the aid from the donor countries. And so the private sector is actually owned by Mr. Kagame and his clique through Crest Ventures and even some other entities.
Do you have any impeccable documents about that?
I have, and I'm appealing actually to the donor countries. I'm here. As in Democracy in Rwanda Now, we have evidence, enough evidence, to show to the donor countries that they're actually helping Rwanda thinking. They're helping Rwandans, but the money that is sent to Rwanda is actually ending up in somebody's arms, which is President Kagame. And we are here, we are saying that we have the evidence, and if they want to tackle this issue, they want to look into the corruption I'm talking about, I'm ready to help.